So here we go. I have 3 layers of funfetti. I cooked one of those layers in a ball shape pan, like so it was like half a sphere. I'm actually putting these cakes upside down, and I'm just putting some buttercream frosting in between the layers. I will spare you the details of this, so I kind of flew through this. So there's the cake all stacked. Now I'm just trimming up because the spear cake was a little bit smaller in diameter, so I just trimmed the cakes to the size here. I'm doing the crumb coat and just filling it all up and making it all nice and smooth. You want to make sure that that flat spot, I really made sure that that flat spot was nice and flat because that's where it was going to sit on my cake board. So I'm just taking my little scraper, just trying to smooth it down. I wasn't too worried because this was my crumb coat. So off in the freezer it goes. So I stuck it in the freezer. Now I can touch the cake and none of the icing will come off. So now I'm adding the second layer of buttercream frosting. Notice the bottom, it is flat. So I opened my box of Wilton white frosting. Now this is what I do when I wrap up and store my fondant. I wrap it up in tinfoil. I try to keep it in the bag, but I cut the bag as I was cutting the fondant. And so I wrap it really good in tinfoil, really nice and tight, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag and store it. So now I am going to be taking my rolling pin and I'm just going to roll my chunk of white fondant out to cover the cake. The cake is currently in the freezer. I had some bubbles. I couldn't find my little pin, so I had to use a toothpick, which really wasn't working, but use what you can. So there's my cake all rolled out, or my fondant all rolled out. I lift it up and now I cover the cake just like so. Ta-da! I really focus when I'm covering and stretching and pulling. Again, that bottom has to be flat because that is going on the cake board. So I'm using my fondant smoother and just taking my hands. I'm working that fondant out, making sure it's really nice and smooth. Like I said, I'm doing the cake upside down because this way the cake's all nice and covered and nice and smooth. Now I'm just trimming away the accents, that excess fondant. I messed up doing this. I went a little too close and I didn't want to because I wanted to pull it up, but I wasn't thinking. I think, was this when my husband and them came home? I'm not sure. But the fondant is all there's. I'm just trimming up the rest of it, which is, like I said, I should have waited and did it after I already flipped the cake onto the board. So now here I am. I'm taking my buttercream and putting it on the bottom of my cake. And there's my cake board, the fondant. I know you're probably thinking, why is this cake board so huge? But I just use this one because it actually says happy birthday. And there's that funfetti cake, and it looks so good on the inside. So yummy. I smushed it a little too hard. So it was a little lopsided, but I didn't really care because it was still really cute. So there's the top all covered with frosting. So now I'm rolling a big wide log. I can never roll my fondant with I see people use the little fondant smoothers and roll it out. I couldn't do it. And then I was getting frustrated because I always end up with one section that's like thinner. And I'm like, I can't get it right and can't get it even. I was a little frustrated. So I was looking for what I wanted to make my front, so I can put the seam of the rim of the bowl, I guess you could say, on top of the cake. And on this part, I'm just pushing up the fondant because, like I said, I should have waited to cut the fondant or just like pulled it over, but I didn't. And I probably should have done the honey first too and then put the rim on, but I didn't. But live and learn. Next time I have to make a Pooh cake, I'll know what to do. So I was just adjusting the seam. For some reason, it was really bothering me So I ended up putting a piece of fondant over the seam where the two pieces met, and I actually really, really liked it. Now here I'm putting little thin slices or thin logs of little snakes of fondant on top of my frosting. Now I'm doing this because I want some life. I want some motion in this jar of honey. So I just have them and I'll work on those later. So now I'm taking some royal blue food coloring, white food coloring, and that is the vodka that I use when I'm painting on cakes. And then as you can see, I took some wax paper and I just kind of like ripped it and shoved it under the cake so the cake board wouldn't get dirty. So I'm using my little doodad thing tool. Love my terminology. And I'm scraping out the royal blue food coloring and I'm putting it in my little paint palette. And now I'm adding my vodka. I have a little bottle of vodka that I refill just for easier handling, and I'm mixing it up. And then what I'm gonna do, or what you're gonna see me do, is I'm gonna take my white, I love white food coloring, I say it all the time, and I'm putting a couple drops of white food coloring, very little, because I still want to keep that dark blue, but I don't want it like in your face, oh my gosh, dark blue. I want it like to look like actual paint dark blue. So I'm doing the bottom, I'm starting from the bottom up, just working my way up. I wanted this pot to look like an actual hand painted porcelain or resin, but my main goal was I wanted it to look like a hand painted pot. So there's the first like little, I guess, ring or level of color. Now I'm adding more white to the blue. And then I added some more vodka just to make some more paint. And then what I'm doing is mixing it up. And now I'm just brushing up again. I'm making like this ombre effect. You can see it, like, you can kind of see the tones here. I don't know how well you can see it. Oh yeah, you can see it pretty good. And now I'm adding even more white to this blue. And I did add more vodka. And now it's going to be a super light blue. And there is the paint job. Now, I washed my brush really, really good. And I'm making sure it's dry. I had no water in it. I had dried it more than that off camera. But, so what I'm doing is I'm just taking plain vodka. Just plain vodka. And I'm taking my brush and I'm just brushing upwards into like, and I wanted those colors to blend. And instead of having like such harsh lines, I wanted it to just kind of blend together. If you look, you can see where I started painting, and in between some of the strokes, I would stop and definitely clean off my brush. But I would, oh my goodness, my cat just scared me. But I'm just brushing up the pot and blending the colors with the rubbing alcohol. Like I said, it gives it this really nice, like, smoother texture instead of having like the harsh lines. And I liked it. That was my thumbs up. So I made some honey color. I used lemon yellow and ivory, and I mixed those two colors together in white fondant, and I tried to get the color of honey. I think I needed more ivory than I did the lemon, but it still came out to a really nice golden yellow-ish color. I definitely kind of think it's close. It's a close representative to honey, let's say. So I'm just rolling it out, and I'm using the bowl as a guide for how big the top of my cake was, but even still, that was like a lot. So when I put it on top of my cake, I was like, oh man, it's still too big. So I took my fondant scissors. These are the scissors I only use for fondant or cake decorating items. And I just was trimming the edge all the way around. right, so I'm working in and working the honey colored fondant up to the rim. I don't want it to look perfect because it's not really that perfect. And I'm using this little acrylic rolling pin that I found to really smooth down and accent those ripples in the bowl of honey, because I do plan on putting a wooden spoon in there, and that ripple effect is just where the spoon is going to sit at. So now I'm just like lifting up the excess, and I trimmed it. See, ta-da, trimmed it. So now I'm taking some more of the honey colored fondant, and I'm making like a teardrop shape, just kind of pulling it and tugging it. And I want this to be a big drip because I want honey dripping over the pot. So I stuck my piece on there, and I'm using my little rolling pin to really just get that fondant worked on there and work all the little kinks and stuff out. I ended up adding another drip, and now I'm rolling some more of the honey colored fondant out. And I found these splat, that's what they were called, splat cutters, and they were on Wish, and I just added a splat of honey where the honey drips are, so I added the splat right under. I thought it was really cute, and I thought it was a really cute touch, and I had a little future idea for that, which you'll see later in the video. All right, so now I took some of my chocolate fondant that I get from Michael's, and I made just like a little handle shape. I put a little hole through it, and I'm using my little tool and just to make some lines and make some green and some texture to it. I did it on all the sides. I'm just giving it just a nice little personality. All right, so I trimmed up my handle and I put 2 toothpicks inside, and right where those 2 like ripples are, I put the little handle in there. It looks so cute. And I did, like I said, I had to take some of the fondant off. I probably could have took a little bit more, but I still kind of liked it. And then I took some more of the honey colored fondant, and I rolled like another long little snake, and I kind of wrapped it around to make it look like the honey like rippling off of that as well. So I just kind of wrapped it around the spoon, and I thought it was like a nice little touch, and tried to blend it in and stuff. So that's what I'm doing here, is just I'm adding some water, making sure it sticks, and I kind of took my little tool and my little rolling pin here and smoothed it down and really just worked it in there to make it look like it was part of the pot. And I think it still came out pretty nice because I wanted it to look like it was really in there. So now I'm taking some white fondant, and this is yellow and ivory and a little bit of orange, and now we're gonna start working on Pooh. Hooray, hooray. Insert sarcasm. So I started with a little bit of yellow, and I added some ivory, and I kept adding ivory. I didn't want it like the honey color, so I just added just a little teeny tiny bit at a time, and then I added some orange until I got the perfect Pooh color. So right now I'm just rolling his body and trying to get a big old dumpy like kind of teardrop shape. And I was just rolling him, making sure he had a nice flat bottom, and just kind of making sure that the body shape was right. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am taking some of that Pooh yellow fondant that I created, and I rolled like a sausage, and then I cut it in half. That way I would have 2 of the same size legs. These are for his legs. His legs and stuff really aren't too complicated. You just basically roll them in sausages. But basically what I did was I tried to make little feet, and I made the bottoms flat and tried to pinch and like smooth out the top to make two little legs, and you can like distinctively see feet instead of just having like two little logs. All right, so now I'm taking my red fondant. This is a pack, those little packs of Wilton red fondant, and I'm just rolling it out. And this little clay cutter was like one of the best investments that I've ever made. I got this at Michael's. It's just so sharp and cuts like the perfect sizes for like cakes and stuff like that. I absolutely love it. Do recommend. But I'm rolling out the red for his t-shirt, and I know he has like a little v-neck / collar type deal going on, so I cut that in the fondant. I sized it. I said, oh, it's a little too big, let me trim some of this. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm trimming it up, making it a little shorter, pulling the excess away, and then pulling poo over, putting a little bit of water just so that the red will stick. And then now I am attaching his shirt. Alright, so now I have his little arms rolled out, and I have them cut at an angle. I'm using that little rolling pin and just kind of rolling a strip of red fondant out. And this is going to be his little sleeves that I'm going to put at the top of his arms. So I have the arms also cut at an angle, so that way they can just slide onto the side of Pooh. So I just put the arm like kind of upside down, the part that would be sticking up on there first, and then I take my little blade and I attach the red and just kind of roll it on there. And then the excess that I have, I just kind of folded it. You can't really see it, but I folded it down, trimmed off the excess, and did that to both arms. Alright, so now I have my arms done, and I am very carefully attaching them to his side and just making sure that they don't fall, making sure they're nice and dry, just making sure they're tacked on, and making sure they're in the right place and even. Alright, so now I'm going to try and make his face. I am rolling the Pooh colored fondant into a ball, and I was just sizing it. I'm making the indentation with my pinky finger for where the eyes are going to go and his nose, and trying to get all that squared away. So right now I am just shaping it and trying to get it just the way it needs to be. what's up? So I'm so sorry my phone died in the middle of making Pooh. I just wasn't paying attention, and then my light died, and I only have one cord or one cube that can power both. So let me show you what I have done so far. I have one last thing to make, and those are the little buzzing bees. And I was still thinking about making flowers. It's still kind of early. I need to actually check the time for real. but yeah, let's see what's going on. Alright guys, here's the little cake. I added some of these little plastic balloons that Miss Kara had given me, and I added a little present and a party hat on Pooh's head. I'm so sorry that I missed that. So now I'm making the little bumblebees. Also in the top of the corner I have a sign. I'm using my AmeriColor Gourmet Writer. It says birthday honey. I used an impression thing to make the imprint of birthday, and then I wrote honey with the black edible marker. For little bumbles, I just wrote out little sausages, as you can see, and now I'm taking my black edible marker and I'm just making the stripes on all the bees. So you can make them as thin as thick as you like, but it's up to you, or you can use fondant. I just thought that the writer would just be quicker instead of rolling everything out. So I put some little happy faces on the bumblebees. So now I'm taking some white fondant, some little itty bitty pieces, and I'm just gonna roll them in a ball, and then I'm gonna make like a little like teardrop shape and flatten them out. And then those are going to be the wings. These little buggers, I'm not even going to lie, were a pain in my butt to make. They kept falling off. But in the end, they are super cute. So I have all of the little wingies done. And there's the sign that says birthday honey. I tried to let it firm up a little bit before I added it to the cake. So I'm taking some water. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm taking water where I'm going to put my little birthday honey sign, and I am placing it on the cake because I'm an idiot, and that's why you can't see it. Okay, so now I'm taking some light clear corn syrup. I'm not sure what it's called anywhere else, but I'm taking some light corn syrup and a paintbrush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically paint on top of the honey, because I want a shiny, you probably could use some piping gel too, and I thought about that later, but all my piping gel has sparkles in it. So you probably could use some clear piping gel, or you can use like some yellow piping gel if you wanted to. I didn't even think about that. I just happened to see the clear corn syrup when I put my Crisco away, and I was like, oh, I can use this. Because I actually, though, did buy some real honey, and I was going to do it with honey, but then I said, I don't know if she would like the taste of honey. So basically, I just went over the whole top of the cake with the corn syrup, and I even attached the bee to the handle with the corn syrup, which actually stuck really well. So here I am just adding the bees to the cake. Alright guys, everything is all cleaned up. The cake is done. I'm not doing anymore. I was going to add flowers and all that. It is now 1 o'clock in the morning. It took me 5.5 hours to make this cake, but as much as I hate this bear, I think the cake came out super duper cute with the little birthday honey pot and Pooh sitting there with some balloons and the little bees on like the drips, little bee on the handle, the ombre. I love the ombre and how it came out. It's like really dark down here and then it just fades up to a light blue. I really wanted a hand painted pot look and I really feel like I've achieved that. And I love the little wooden spoon just sticking out of it. I think it's adorable. I like the little happy birthday thing. I think it's cute. I can't wait to give it to the teacher I work with tomorrow. So yeah. Alright guys, I ain't touching nothing before it messes up. Pooh's ready to party. He's got a little present here. He's got a little party hat on. He's like, alright, I'm ready to go. Time to boogie. Time to get down. Happy birthday. So yeah, there's the cake.